Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I thought I would do something a little bit different. I thought I would do a bit of a recommendation video. As some of you may know, Arrow Video are currently having a sale on their store, so you can get quite a lot of their Blu-ray titles for discounted prices. And yeah, I thought I would just give you 5 of my personal recommendations if you are thinking of picking something up from the sale, but you're not too sure what. So yeah, I thought I would just give 5 recommendations, but then I'll also give 3 that I would not recommend picking up. So yeah, let's get into it. So I've tried to go with some picks that are maybe not quite as popular on the Arrow label. So you're not going to see the likes of RoboCop or Donnie Darko, Demons, Tremors, movies like that. As much as I love those movies, I've tried to go with movies that are a bit lesser known, let's say. And I've also tried to mix it up a bit, try and go with as many different genres as I can, because obviously people all like different things. So yeah, let's see what I've got. So my first recommendation is a movie called What Have You Done to Solange? So yeah, this is a movie that came out in 1972. It's an Italian movie and it is a giallo movie. So for anyone who's not familiar with that term, giallo is a genre of cinema that came out around about the late 60s, early 70s, and it became very popular with the likes of Dario Argento and Mario Bava. And this movie is one of the many that came out around about the time that the genre became very popular. But for me, this is one of my personal favourite giallo movies. It's basically about a Catholic school for girls that is being targeted by this serial killer. And one of the girls from the school, she's in a secret relationship with one of her teachers at the school. And whilst they're out together, she witnesses the murder of one of her friends from the school. And she wants to go forward to the police to tell them what has happened. But the teacher kind of persuades her not to, because obviously that would reveal their secret relationship, which would be bad news for him. But in doing that, the teacher kind of becomes a prime suspect in the investigation. And yeah, it kind of goes from there. But yeah, I think this is a fantastic thriller. Great mystery, keeps you guessing right until the end. It's got a beautiful score by Ennio Morricone, the great Ennio Morricone, and it's got a really shocking ending, which I did not see coming at all. So yeah, if you like sort of Italian cinema, giallo movies like the Dario Argento ones, then I would definitely recommend What Have You Done to Solange? Next recommendation is a movie called Dark Blue, starring Kurt Russell. So yeah, this is a movie that came out in 2002, but it actually takes place in Los Angeles in 1992, around about the time of the Rodney King trial and the subsequent riots that took place afterwards. And yeah, it's basically about Kurt Russell, who is a police officer for the LAPD, and it kind of deals with him sort of battling his own personal agenda, but also dealing with like corruption in the police force that he works for, and the racial tensions that are sort of all around, especially in the police force. And yeah, I think this is a really, really underrated police thriller. It's got a real gritty sort of tone, some good action scenes, great performance by Kurt Russell. And yeah, I think some of the themes in it probably feel more relevant now than maybe when it came out. And I don't know if that was maybe one of the reasons why this movie didn't do as well as people were expecting it to. But in my opinion, it's a really, really, really good police thriller, and yeah, I can't really recommend it enough. So yeah, that is Dark Blue. Next recommendation is a movie I probably have talked about in the past, but I do really love this movie. It's my favorite South Korean movie, and it's a movie called The Villainess. So yeah, this is like a South Korean action movie that takes a lot of influence from Nikita, the French movie about the female hitman, or hitwoman, I should say. And yeah, this is just a fantastic film. If you like your action movies, sort of like the John Wick movies, then this is right up your street. The opening sequence is absolutely brilliant, and for me, it rivals the likes of, the hallway scene from Old Boy. For me, it might even be better than that, which is probably a controversial opinion. But yeah, this movie is just so much fun. Amazing action sequences. I really can't recommend it enough, especially if you like South Korean movies. It has to be watched. And yeah, if you like your action movies as well, definitely give it a go. But yeah, that's The Villainess. Next recommendation is The Dead Center. So yeah, this is a movie that I think it came out in 2019, so it's fairly recent. It's kind of like a psychological horror, but it's about a doctor who works at a mental hospital, and it's about this patient that comes to the hospital completely comatose. The staff have no idea how he's gotten that way, where he came from. But obviously it's the doctor's job to assess him and find out what's happened to him. But around about the same time that this patient comes to the hospital, some very strange things start to happen, and it kind of goes a bit nuts from there. But yeah, I've got to say, I was really impressed with this movie. I wasn't expecting much from it. It's fairly low budget. There's no real big stars in the movie. I don't think there was much money spent on the production, but considering the production values, it really works, and I was really impressed with it. It kind of has that David Cronenberg body horror, psychological horror sort of vibe to it. But yeah, all I can say is, if you like your horror movies, I would definitely recommend The Dead Center. Okay, so last recommendation from me now, and this is a trilogy of movies from Japan, and it is the Bloodthirsty trilogy. So yeah, as I said, this is a trilogy of movies, and it's basically Japan's answer to Hammer horror. It's basically their version of Hammer horror movies. All three movies, they're all individual films. They're not connected in any way. The only thing that does connect them is the theme, that they're all vampire movies. But these are a lot of fun. I really enjoyed these movies. They're all very short. You could probably watch all three in one night. And yeah, there's just a lot of like elements that seem very similar to Hammer horror, like I've said. And they're actually kind of creepy in places. The first entry in particular, the vampire doll, there were parts of that movie that I thought were genuinely quite creepy. And yeah, these would just be great movies to watch like at midnight with all the lights off. Yeah, you just get a great atmosphere from watching them at that time of the day. But yeah, like I said, I really enjoy these movies. And again, if you like your horror, if you like your Hammer horror, your Japanese cinema, Japanese horror, I would definitely recommend them. That's the Bloodthirsty trilogy. So as I said at the beginning of the video, I had the 5 recommendations, but I've also got 3 titles here that, in my personal opinion, I would advise not to waste your time with. And the first one I have here is a movie called The Chill Factor. So yeah, this is a movie that sounds fun on paper. It's basically about a group of kids, well, teenagers, who go on this snowmobile vacation out in the mountains, and they find themselves at this cabin, sort of like up in the mountains, and they find this Ouija board in the cabin, and then they unleash this presence that attacks them. And yeah, like I said, it sounds fun on paper, but honestly, this movie is really not great. I mean, most of the movie takes place in a cabin at night. It's a really dull-looking cabin. All the scenes are really dark, so you just can't tell what's going on. It's only 85 minutes, but it feels like it's 4 hours long. It just really drags. There's not much horror to it, and when there is, it's all very cheap. The acting is atrocious, and yeah, there's just really not much I can recommend about this movie. All I can say is, if you're an Arrow completist, that would be the only reason to get this. But other than that, I would not recommend this title. And my next movie that I would not recommend is a movie called Satan's Blade. So yeah, this is a movie that's very similar to Chill Factor. It's basically about this camp in the woods, but it takes place during winter instead of summer. And again, about these teenagers who are out there and they're getting stalked by this killer. But for me, this is possibly my least favorite Arrow title that I own. I cannot find any redeeming qualities with this movie. It looks like it was shot on a $10 budget. The acting, again, is terrible. There is zero tension. It's only 83 minutes, but it drags. It really does drag. And yeah, there's really not much I can recommend about this movie, other than if you're an Arrow completist, then get it. But just get the movie, don't watch it, just put it on your shelf straight away. But yeah, that is Satan's Blade. And the last title that I have here now is a box set. I think this box set is out of print. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's out of print, but you can get a standard version, with like the 3 movies in a slimmer case. But again, I would not recommend getting this box set, but it is the American Horror Project Volume 1. So yeah, I remember when this box set came out. It came out in 2015, and I think at the time Arrow had big plans where they were going to do a lot of these volumes of these box sets, but since then we have only had another volume, Volume 2, and since then there have been no other volumes. So I think, you know, pardon the pun, but it speaks volumes to me that Arrow have just kind of put a halt on these box sets, because I just don't think they really had the impact that they expected them to have. The idea behind them is that they would take movies horror movies that are very obscure, from like the 70s or maybe even earlier than the 70s, and, you know, giving them a new lease of life. But speaking for these 3 movies, I just think those movies were obscure for a reason. They're just not good movies. They're really not, in my opinion. Again, they've got a very low budget quality to them, so some people might find some charm with that. But for me personally, I just didn't get anything out of the 3 movies in this collection. I wanted a good horror movie. I wanted gore. I wanted to be scared. I just didn't get anything from any of the 3 movies in this collection. And yeah, it's a shame, because it's a really nice box set. You get all your limited edition contents in it, but yeah, unfortunately the movies are just not worth the time or energy. So yeah, it's a shame, but yeah, I would personally not recommend the American Horror Project Volume 1. So there you go, guys. Those are some of my recommendations and some of my non-recommendations for the Arrow sale, if you are thinking of picking anything up. I hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen any of these movies. Do you like them? Do you not like them? What are some of your favourite Arrow titles? What are some of your least favourites? It'd be great to have a conversation about it all. But yeah, I'll leave the video there. So until next time, guys, take care.